And good evening. We are at week 3, my Purification Warriors. So our last night's class was a great class. Everybody's doing really good. So let's hope the same for everybody here tonight. So this is week 3. And of course, I think I'm funny. So I always have to put these things in just that way you can laugh. If you, in my online class, I mean, on my in-person class, we do a class and we did my Dr. B's famous egg roll in a bowl last night. Because it's a dish I can whip up very quickly. It's easy to make. We made it the week before, but I used ground chicken for the class, which worked out much better. So we got organic chicken. So it's really simple. You can get organic slaw already made in a bag. Your organic peas, your onions, your garlic, your green onions. Super simple. You just saute everything up and put it all together. And I mean, used like 6 bags of slaw. So it was very good. And we used the coconut aminos. The recipes here, it is on the Facebook page as well, on the private page. So you can get it there. Or you can find it on Bay Street Wellness under the Purification page. You scroll down, you'll see it says Dr. B's recipes. So this is super easy to make. Don't think it's a lot of, ingredients, because it's not, but I whipped it up yesterday for, all our people in our class. I made a big crock pot full, and it took me maybe an hour and a half at the most. But that's because I had to do it in shifts to get it all cooked at one time. All right. So days 15 through 21, nothing changes. We are doing the same, double your vegetables to your fruit. No corn, peas, or white potatoes. Now, we have a little few of the green peas in there. That's fine if you're doing a little bit. I don't want you eating cupfuls of those things. Your salads, unlimited. Make your own dressings. Remember, last week we talked about the sugar. And if you looked at any of your homemade dressings, you saw all the sugar that was in it. And tonight we're going to talk about seed oils. So remember, serving is your 1 cup. And I would limit it to that 1 cup a day. And if you're going to do it, I would do it for your shake only. If you're going to munch on fruit, maybe a half a cup of berries, but I would limit it to your shake. And if you are on a weight management program, I would limit your fruit to berries only, because they're lower in the glycemic index, and that will help in the weight management part of that. Remember, this is not a weight loss program. It just happens to be a really nice side effect. And if you really want to bolster that side effect, this is what I would suggest, to limit the fruit. Also, your quinoa and your lentils, only a half a cup per day, either or, not both. And if you want to lose weight again, keep those down to a low minimum. I think I put lentils, a handful of lentils in one soup that I made, and I put the green peas in, so that, I kind of limit that. That's all we've done. And you can mash up your cauliflower to make it like mashed potatoes. So we have options that give you that carby feel. But remember, I'm kind of pulling those carbs away because you're so addicted to them. We got to make it better. Your oils, so coconut oil, your extra virgin olive oil, flaxseed oil, avocado oil, grass-fed butter. And we had a post in the Facebook page. I had Kurt posted about the extra virgin olive oil, and he had a link to where to order it, because most of them in the United States are mixed with cheaper oils. And if you go to a restaurant, oftentimes they'll mix the olive oil with just a regular oil, and you don't know the difference. So you think you're doing the right thing, and you're getting the wrong thing. So that's why we do detoxes like this, because we can't manage everything we eat. We can't live in a bubble. We still have to live. So we take a time each year to kind of clean ourselves out and go on forward. All right, your spring water, your herbal tea. If you're going to drink your decaf, your No Fun Joe, because it's Swiss water decaf, or whatever Swiss water decaf you enjoy. I just found that has the best flavor. I don't get any royalties or anything from that. I just try to find things that I like and then pass that on to you. So only 20 capsules this week. So 2 to 3 shakes. And now that we're adding animal protein in, because everybody is now past that day 10, and we're on to day 11, where you can have your animal protein. You can maybe drop your shakes down to 2 a day. But if you feel like it's a good meal replacement, please stay on those. So 3 gastrofiber twice a day, 3 green food twice a day, and then your 4 GI Adsorb at night with water before you go to bed. Take it 2 hours away from any of your prescription medications. So if you're taking something in the evening for blood pressure or whatever, just take it 2 hours before you take your GI Adsorb. That gives your body time to process it and run it through your liver. And then the GI Adsorb can do the the cleanup of any toxins left over. So that's how it'll take care of you. All right, seed oils. Here's the hateful eight: canola, corn, cottonseed, soy, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, and rice bran. All bad oils. And we say vegetable oils. They are not vegetable oils at all. They're all seed oils. Yeah, maybe it comes from corn, but that's about it. They're all coming from seeds. So it's a misnomer. And they say seed oils because now it kind of confuses you because vegetable oils are bad, but what about seed oils? So let's talk about that. So we have polyunsaturated vegetable oils, and these are the corn oil, the cottonseed oil, soybean, safflower, peanut, and canola. And I guarantee you that if you do go to a fast food restaurant, it is cooking with one of those cheaper oils because they last a long time. They have a high burning point or boiling point. So they're great to use for French fries and stuff like that, which you shouldn't be eating anyway. Make your own at home. Get an air fryer and make your own. So why is it bad? So we have cholesterol, and cholesterol is not a bad guy. Cholesterol is very important to us. Number one thing it does is it makes our sex hormones. And that's why you see on TV all these guys with low T, because the doctors are putting on statins, which are getting their cholesterol down below 140. And then they can't make their own testosterone. So super important to have enough good cholesterol. Your LDL, which is your low density lipoprotein, it's not necessarily bad. It gets a bad rap, but it's very necessary. If you cut yourself, it's what stops the bleeding. It's what keeps you from bleeding out. The HDL is like the WD-40 for your arteries and veins. It keeps it nice and clear so no plaque can develop. But the VLDL is the very low density lipoprotein, is the bad guy. And most of your lipid panels that your primary cares do for you, they don't even test that. That's why when you come to me, I always do a complete lipid panel to include that VLDL. That's the very low density lipoprotein. That's the sludge, that sticky sludge that hangs at the bottom. And if a piece of that breaks off, it goes to your heart, you have a heart attack. If a piece breaks off and goes to your brain, you have a stroke. So that's why we want to keep that number really low. And a good time to do a blood workup after the detox is like prime. And I would do it like you can hit it the next day. It would be like golden for your glucose and for your cholesterol panel. So if you have a worry about that and you want to see some improvement, you'll go get your blood the next day. If your doctor won't do that, call us. We can do a requisition. It's about $170. Maybe a few dollars less than that, but 170, that's for a complete lipid panel, a complete CBC, a complete metabolic panel, a complete thyroid panel, CRP, A1C, vitamin D, and a urinalysis. I mean, that's like a $500 panel, but I have a co-op that I don't mark my blood up. So if you feel like you want to do that, you don't think your doctor's going to do that, then make sure you give us a call. And like I said, you want to go in that next morning. And, so the big thing that happened here is, in the 60s, when Eisenhower had his heart attack, Ansel Keys, who's just a scientist, came up with this heart hypothesis. And he's the one that said it's saturated fat that caused that heart attack. So he convinced everybody to pull all the saturated fat out of food. Well, guess what? The food didn't taste very good because fat is satiating and it gives that food that yummy, rich flavor. Well, if you don't have fat, what are you going to do to make it taste good? You're going to add sugar to it. And you can see over here in the corner, I kind of showed a little bit of the circles here. You can see soybean oil, and these are the snack wells. Remember when they came out, but the cookies were like that big, and your serving size is 2, but you would eat the whole box because there was no fat in it. So, no fat, no worry. But you can see here, I mean, there's hydrogenated cottonseed oil, and there's high fructose corn syrup, regular sugar, dextrose. So you've got a lot of junk in there, and you can look in the package here, and you can see that the carbohydrates are 19 grams, and look at that, 9 grams of that's coming from sugar. So, and you get a whole big 1 gram of protein. Not a good protein source, ladies and gentlemen. And then here's, what we've been told all these years: no trans fatty acids. Here, Benecol is supposed to be heart healthy. And you can see it says no trans fatty acids, 2 different places. But if you look at the label, look at that: liquid canola oil, partially hydrogenated soybean oil, polyglycerol esters of fatty acids, hydrogenated soybean oil again. So it's like, those are all trans fats. But how do they get away with that? Well, let me tell you. So here's what I just want to show you the comparison here that you can see. So when you look at this, the saturated fats versus the trans fats, you can see the benefits of having the saturated fats. They're good for healthy cell function. They enhance hormone production. They suppress your inflammation. They lower the LP little a, which is the bad guy. Raise your good cholesterol. Put in tissues and conserve with your omega-3s and help with insulin receptors for those who either are insulin resistant. Enhances the immune system and also encourages the production of prostaglandins. So your hormones are there. Trans fats do absolutely nothing. And you can see all the substitutes on the right here. You can see from from top to bottom, especially I can't believe it's not butter because it's not. The first thing is vegetable oil blend, soybean oil, palm kernel oil, canola oil. I mean, they get you just about all half of the hateful eight right there. So use real butter. And they're young, they're in love, they eat lard. That's what we all should be eating. I mean, we just don't do that anymore. And Joan Gussow, she's a chemist, and she says, as for butter versus margarine, I trust cows more than I trust chemists. So here's what it looks like. And I showed you this picture last week. You can see that ants are just a bit smarter than we are because they know what to eat and what not to eat. But here are all the foods that you have that have trans fats in them. And, it doesn't mean you can't have them, but, I would certainly limit them. And if you look at that on the left-hand side there, 40% of foods in the typical US market contain trans fats. 40%. It's almost half the food in our stores have trans fats in them. So then you see these labels, 0 grams, of trans fat, 0 grams, still it's bad for your heart. And here's why. So this is a label. And you can see on this is Marie Callender's crouton label. And it says very explicitly 0 trans fats. And on the label, you see it says 0 trans fats. But when you read the ingredients, it says partially hydrogenated soybean oil. And I think there's another one down a little bit lower. There's just soybean oil down there. They just kind of hide that in there. So there are trans fats in there, but how can they get away with that? And that's a serving size of 5 croutons. How many people eat only 5 croutons? So when you look here and down here in the gray, I have it highlighted. This is the actual, what the FDA says. It says that a product can list their product as 0 grams of trans fats, and if it contains 0.5 grams of trans fats per serving. So if you eat 10 croutons, you've had 1 gram of trans fat, which has already well exceeded your level and becomes critical. So you can see why our health is so damaged. And the important part of this is that our body doesn't break those oils down. They get stored, especially ladies, that cellulite you get stored, that's that buildup of all the trans fats because our body temperature never raises. 98.6 is our normal. These fats have boiling points of 200 and 300 degrees. And that's why like olive oil is difficult to cook with. It's very fragile. It doesn't have a very high boiling point. Butter doesn't have a real high boiling point. But your peanut oil, you can cook all day long. We cook a whole turkey in that when we do the deep fryer. So, you have to be wise and learn to read your labels. So what are all fats bad? Of course not. We have good fats and bad fats. So all your butter, your lard, chicken fat, your cold pressed olive oil, your sesame oil, flax oil, tropical oils that are cold pressed and organic, and fish liver oils. I mean, from cod, that's usually we take that by mouth. I don't really cook with that. You may, I don't. We take it, but we don't cook with it. And then the bad ones. I mean, you can see the whole list there. I mean, it's just, if you have these in your house, just get rid of them. Either if they're not open, take them to the food bank, which I even hate to say that. If it's an oil, like I just say, pour the weeds on the weeds and kill the weeds and, throw the bottles away. I mean, recycle the bottles. It's hard for me to even say to take it to the food bank. And so the hidden trans fats, and you'll see these on your labels. You'll see that the hydrogenated oils, these are the names you'll see, coconut oil, hydrogenated palm, and if partially hydrogenated doesn't count as well. I mean, counts as well. Vegetable oil, corn oil, and canola oil. And how many years have we been told that canola oil is like a healthy oil? It's a seed oil. It has to be hydrogenated to be prepared. So that's what we look at, and that's why I want you to read labels. So let's read a label. I think this is really important because most people don't understand. So if you look under nutrition facts, you see it says serving size. It always say the serving size. And then underneath it says amount of serving. It'll say calories and then calories from fat. I don't know why we're so concerned with fat. We should be concerned with sugar. We should change that, calories from sugar. So you can see your total fat. And on the left, you see it says 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So we multiply 9 by that total fat, which is 4.95, and we get the 44.5. This is how we calculate that calories per serving. The 1 gram of carbohydrates has 4 calories. You multiply the total carbohydrates, which is 20.18 times 4, and you get 80.72. So that's how many calories are coming from that. And then the gram of protein in there, 1 gram equals 4 calories as well. So you have 3.6 multiplied by 4, it's 14.4. And you total those up, and it gives you a total of 139.7. But it says calories are only 137, so it's not accurate. And it says 0 trans fats, but they didn't really put something there. So they're happy to tell you about the saturated fats, but they don't want to tell you about the trans fats. So learn to read your labels and just even ingredient lists. I know Marianne spent, one day we wanted barbecue sauce. We didn't want to have to make anything. I think she went through 50 bottles before she found maybe 1 or 2 that we would even, consider, because they were either loaded with high fructose corn syrup, they had some kind of partially hydrogenated oil in them. So we kind of just, picked one. We got one out of that. So this is my nice way to say that. You hear me say that whatever you put in your mouth is either an act of nutrition or act of suicide. This is really the nice way to say it. The food that you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. So that's the more accurate. And just remember, you being fit is 80% of diet and 20% exercise. You can't outrun your fork. We talked last week that if you walk to Starbucks and you go for a mile, that's 100 calories, and you walk home, that's 200 calories, but the caramel macchiato you had was 250 calories. So you didn't outrun your fork or your straw at that point. And these are the food ratings that we see, the translations we see. No sugar added. Instead, we've added and included a variety of sweet-tasting carcinogenic chemicals. The words artificial flavoring mean a horrible mix of chemicals that will trick your brain into thinking you're eating something healthy. Natural flavoring is a tiny drop of lemon or something added to that chemical crap listed in item 2. Low fat, instead of fat, we've added a chemical cocktail that is even worse than fat ever was. And number 5, an essential source of vitamins and minerals. We've added a salad of unavailable vitamins and minerals to hide the rest of the garbage that we are feeding you and your children. And that's why, I want to reiterate why I use Standard Process, because it's whole food based, it's organic. They are certified organic. They have their soil that's organic. They rotate their crops. They bought property around the property they grow on. They grow 90 million pounds of their own produce for their own product. So they have control of that. We know what's in it. So that's why I don't let you go down to, the big box store and pick up your multivitamin, because it's going to have ascorbic acid in it as a vitamin C. A vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. It's only one component. That orange or that vegetable that has vitamin C in it, you need the whole thing to get the component of that vitamin C. Remember my friend who's a nutrition scientist, Dr. Chinmay Panda, she says that those biochemical processes are like locks in our body. The phytonutrients have the exact key to turn and unlock that biochemical process. Isolates like ascorbic acid, which all comes from China, is a key that you get made down at the hardware store for your house. And it fits perfectly in there. It's a good match there, but there's something wrong and it won't turn and unlock that lock. So that's the important part of why we use phytonutrients, especially in this program. So let's talk about serious stuff here, because most of my patients that do this program are, I would say, 40 and older. And this starts when we turn in our 50s. So we want to be prepared for it. So sarcopenia, it just means self-eating. So basically it means flesh death. And this is, what I talk about when I teach. I always tell this, that I have 2 sides of my professional life. I save people from themselves late in the game. And then the other part is making the above never happen to them. So it's interesting. I get patients coming in that are in their 70s and 80s and 85 that are like, Just tell me what to do so I can have a good life. Tell me what to eat, what supplements I need to take. That's like music to my ears, that people want to live a great, healthy life and have longevity. And it's all concerned to us. We're not going to live forever. So what do we do to make it happen so we don't? So we live together, live better, but live longer and live healthier. So we have what we call a physiological headroom, and that's the difference between the most you can do and the least you can do. So think about when you're really young and when you're really old. We have that big headroom. And then part two is the area under that curve. That's the physiological headroom across a lifetime. So we want a long span for that so that we can live well. So we have aging in our system. And, we've already talked, a couple of you have talked about this, about the parts, are hurting because of things not working right. Bone density reduces when we get in our 30s. Women, it's escalated when we go through menopause due to a loss of estrogen. We lose our joint cartilage, it becomes thinner. We have alterations of the proteoglycans, and then we have less resistance as we age. Our joints become stiff, and range of motion is limited due to connective tissue getting rigid, and our muscle contraction speed decreases as we age. It doesn't have to be that way. Normally we'll all have something like that, but we can really slow that process down. So what is common is not normal. So the modern hunter and gatherers lived to an age of 72. The effects of infant mortality were included. Death from infection and trauma are included in that. So they had a high physiological headroom into extreme old age. There was a large area under that curve. That's what we all should strive for. And this is what normal healthy aging would look like. And this guy's probably 90 years old, but he lived well eating. And here's part of the problem. We have some organisms that make their own food. We call them autotrophs. We are heterotrophs. That means we catch our own food. That means we drive by Chick-fil-A, Burger King, and grab the bag as we drive by. So that's where our problem begins. The tiger knows what to eat. The flamingos know what to eat. Even the monarch butterfly knows exactly how much of that milkweed to eat. It doesn't go eat any other plant. And it knows exactly how much to eat before it's done to go in to make its chrysalis. So what's wrong with us? We have such a stronger brain, but we have these addictions, and sugar is the biggest one. So this is common but not normal. This is what we're seeing now. We see a lot of distance. There's not a lot of distance between the caregiver and the care receiver. So I want to see better, images of that in the future. So when we look at this, we call this bending the aging curve. So if we do a prescription for improved aging, it would be lifelong training. So if you lifelong train, you can see your muscle mass when you're in your 20s is maybe 75, and then in your 40s you can get it up to 80 if you're doing lifelong training, and then it declines down to about 70-69% when you're 90. Not bad. The bend curve of aging is it kind of slows down. I mean, you start training and then you kind of level that off, so you maybe lose a little bit more muscle. If you're untrained, and Joseph Signorelli says that if you are untrained, that you have just a straight line down. But Patton Jones, he said no, it's a stair step down, and it's drastically. By the time you're 90, you have 30% muscle mass. That's just that's just scary. It doesn't have to be that way. So aging and diseases of modern civilization are 100% related to muscle loss, and that occurs with aging. That's that sarcopenia. So 1 in 2 American adults will live with a musculoskeletal condition. So your musculoskeletal system is your muscles, tendons, ligaments, bone, and joints. That's what moves us and maintains our structure. And if you're not exercising, say your knees or your low back, if your upper leg, your quads are weak, that makes all that muscle, all that bone sit on top of each other. But if the muscle's strong, it keeps that joint open because it's supported. Same thing in the back. If you've got good, strong muscles in your back, it keeps those spinal discs open. If the muscles are weak, the bones collapse on top of each other, and then that's when we get the nerve pain associated. So muscle mass and function decline with age. It starts in our 30s. That's the bad news. We have a significant decline when we're in our 50s. And then by the time we're 80, our grip strength can decrease between 50% from age 20 to 80. That's a lot. Doesn't have to be that way. Arthritis, and that's another. I mean, we had 54 million people back in 2015. That's arthritis, RA, lupus, gout, fibromyalgia. It increases with age, all those risks, more common in women and more common in people that are overweight or obese. And they project that 78 million adults will be diagnosed with arthritis by 2040. That's not too far away. I mean, we're already in the 2024s here. So sarcopenia in the US, the loss of muscle mass and strength is related to aging process. Muscle mass decreases after the age of 50 at 1 to 2% annually. It's really 1 to 3%. That's updated data. Muscle strength decreases between the ages of 50 and 60 at a 1.5%, and then a 3% rate after, 5 to 13%, 60 to 70 years old, 11 to 50% at the age over 80. So the American Council of Aging has 10 biomarkers of health. So as physicians, these are what we use to check how my patients are doing. So we're looking at all these 10 factors. So let's talk about these. So I put muscle mass and strength together because you can't have one without the other. Your skeletal muscle is your largest, endocrine and immunogenic organ. It's the most metabolic thing that we have, and it directly communicates to the brain. So it's super important to be able to have that strength. Strength is independently associated with functional ability and balance, and 30% of loss of strength over 12 years can be restored in 1 year of strength training. Nobody has excuses here. So when we look at when we work out with weights or any kind of exercise where we're pushing the muscle, we create what we call myokines. And they're strictly reserved for what the muscles produce. And those go into the bloodstream. Look at what just exercising does. It inhibits osteoblasts. That's bone, I always remembered it in school as bone blowing up. So it inhibits bone breaking down. In the breast tissue, it inhibits mammary cancer cell growth. In the pancreas, it increases GLP-1 secretion. And what's the big thing we see now? Everybody's doing the Ozempic and the Wegovy because it's a GLP-1 increaser. Well, it has to stay on that for life, and it damages your gastric system. So there's no bonus there. It's just a pharmaceutical. Oh, we've got something we can make money on, and then patients are affected by that. In your gut, it increases the GLP-1 as well. Your suppression of your colon tumors, and your liver, your glucose uptake. Your WAT is your white adipose tissue. It increases lipolysis, which means breakdown. Glucose is taken up instead of pushed away and stored. Thermogenic browning of that white fat. So when we're born, we have brown fat on the back of our neck, and that's to protect our spine and our neural tube and our brain. And so if we get cold, that's what protects us. And animals are the same way. As we get older, it kind of goes away, but we can bring that back by exercising. And there's a Wim Hof, and he's a big the cold plunge guy, and he says that if you get in the water and plunge, you could do it in your shower. So for me, I do it. I turn the water off. I take a really hot shower and then turn it all the way to cold, and then let that cold water run in the back of my neck until I get goosebumps. And then I leave it on for just a little bit longer and then shut it off. And when that goosebumps happen, that starts that thermogenic browning of that white fat. Then the brown adipose tissue it increases the thermogenesis and also beta oxidation, which is important for those oxidative stress that happens in your body or free radicals. The beta oxidation is what manages those, and that's the free radicals are what causes cancer and chronic disease. And then the brain, it increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That is memory and learning. So as we age, we can learn for a long period of time, but if you don't use it, you lose it. So on this picture here, the top picture is a 40-year-old triathlete, and you can see the white tissue on the outside is the fat. The white in the very middle, that's his bone, and then the bone density around it, and the bone tissue, and then the muscle. And the middle one is a 74-year-old sedentary man. Look at the depth of that adipose tissue, and look how little muscle there is, and look at how small the bone is. And the picture below is a 70-year-old triathlete. So it's a dramatic difference when you're exercising. And we're having a conversation before the class started that If you have one bum leg, you still have a good one. You still have good upper body. So still work that, because you get a crossover effect that helps to strengthen it. So something is better than nothing. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is just the study that they were talking about. They took a male subject, 92 years old, before and after 12 weeks of resistance training. He increased his muscle mass by 44%. So you can see the picture on the left. You can see how small the muscle was, and look how much the muscle grew in 12 weeks of resistance training. It's just being consistent with it, people. And that's what I want to see. Bone density. So exercising will help with bone density, but when we put pressure on bone, it builds bone. And when strength reduces, then we have osteoporosis kicks in. So we have something called Wolff's law, that when you put pressure on bone, it builds bone. So all your muscles are attached to your bone via a tendon. When you exercise that muscle, that tendon pulls on that bone and makes the bone stronger. So we thought originally that's all that was happening, that was just that mechanical stress. But now with research, we know that we have that myokine signaling, like we talked about in that other slide. When we exercise, those myokines are released. In particular, it's the interleukin 15. So we know exactly which myokine is actually causing the muscle growth. And that's just fascinating to me. So in my office, this is what I see. This is my unfortunate job security. So we don't want to see these things, and most of these things can be avoided or generally slowed down. So just the nutritional effects of bone density, and that's affected by your diet, your food components, sun exposure, your sleep patterns, work shifts, and other modifiable factors that impact osteoporosis. Any preventative or innovative strategies you have, they're more effective, and there are always new ways coming out to measure it and to build it. So we have early biomarkers now, but I'm telling you, you can see the difference between when you exercise and how thick the bone gets and when you don't. Body composition, if you've come to my office or if you've gone to get your body comp done, if you haven't done it, please come in or find somebody. You want to look at the InBody 570, and that'll give you a complete body composition. So it's measuring not only your weight, but what that weight is made of. It measures your dry lean mass, which are your bones, so I can track that on patients. It measures your body fat on your right arm, your left arm, your trunk, right leg, left leg, and also muscle, right arm, trunk, right leg, left leg. So we can see when you are on that weight loss journey that I can show you, hey, look, you put on muscle here, but look at the fat you've lost. And most particular in this InBody, the 570, it does a visceral fat. That's the belly fat. That's the deadly fat. So it helps to monitor that, and then we can see the progress as those numbers go down. So we need to know that. And once again, that interleukin 15, that myokine, is what helps to leverage that battle. It's not about calories in and calories out. So those myokines help shift that muscle into a lean muscle. Blood lipids. So we kind of talked about cholesterol already. Those numbers are very loosely associated with heart disease. I have like a ton of slides I wanted to put in, but I have limited time to keep your focus. But strength training helps to raise the HDL and lower the LDL and the VLDL. So most important, that controls insulin as well and opposes inflammatory cytokines. So any inflammation you have is squelched when your blood lipids are normalized, and that'll help with by exercising. So hemodynamics, this is working with your heart. So we have Starling's law of heart. You don't need to know this, but the increased filling of the right pressure results in a better cardiac output. So the more you work your heart, and it's a muscle, you can't hand it a dumbbell. So you have to go out and do cardiovascular exercise to build that. So it enhances the venous return. So if your heart is beating it like a strong muscle, it pushes that blood around your body in fewer pumps. So if my heart beats at 50 and your heart beats at 70, per minute, my heart is beating 20 beats left per hour, per day, per week, per month, per year, per decade. So my heart will last longer. Your heart will wear out because it's having to work harder. So when the heart is strong, it has a greater stroke volume and greater perfusion. So we get more blood and less beats. And that decreases any, like what we call the vascular resistance. And that's like swelling in the legs. So we want to do that. And we can measure these things. So if you weren't with us last year, we did an omega-3 index test. And you want your omega-3s at least at 8%. That 8% will really help you to keep the total fatty acids high in your system. And we can actually measure that with a blood spot test. And then I can calculate actually how much fish oil you should be taking. Because you may be taking fish oil. Are you taking enough? I don't know. I can't. I have to have a way to measure it. So if you're local, just call and we'll get a kit to you. You can do it at home or come in the office. And this is the importance of that. The omega-3 index and acute coronary syndrome. So we always say that cholesterol is what caused the heart attack. We're finding out now that is incorrect. And we know now that the omega-3s are really important for the heart, and that if your omega-3 index is between 4 and 8%, you have less of a risk of having acute coronary syndrome, heart attack. If you have above 8%, look how much you've decreased your risk. It's almost 35, 40%. So that's pretty amazing, just taking fish oil. That's how important these things are. So I always encourage to measure that. It also reduces inflammation as well. So I have a bunch of studies. I didn't want to bore you with those, but I think that was just really impactful. Your aerobic capacity. So not cardio, but your aerobic segment is, how we make our heart work. And that's how we get our heart stronger for that stroke volume. And it's different between anaerobic and aerobic. So aerobic is when we do cardiovascular. Anaerobic is when we either sprint when we're running or we do weight training. Aerobic is good. Strength training. So I'll say strength training is the king. Aerobic is the queen. And you need both to have a nice kingdom. Or it could be a king and king and a queen and queen. So whatever. So, and then gene expression. This is very fascinating to me because they have 179 genes they've found that represent or related to aging. And they even show that youthful levels of expression from 26 weeks of strength training can reverse aging. And that's just by increasing strength by 50%. It's not even a pill. You can go do that anywhere. Planet Fitness, $10 a month. If you're a senior and you have silver sneakers, you have a free gym membership most of the time. Check it out. Your brain factors. So your BDNF, your myokines, that's your memory myokine is what we call it. So the memory myokine is really important because it affects the lowering the risk of Alzheimer's disease, any kind of neuroinflammatory disease, Parkinson's, depression, obesity. Independent markers are all independent markers of mortality. And increased skeletal muscle due to exercise directly affects the brain. Aerobics is good, strength training is better. So what does that mean? This is what it looks like. Low volume. So if you do 51 minutes a week, that's at least 3 times a week is what the exercise routine is. Or is just as effective as doing a high volume 114 minutes a week and continuous training for 150 minutes a week. So when I talk about high intensity, that means if you're doing a dumbbell and you're doing it for 30 reps because it's 5 pounds, you're doing the wrong thing. You want to do a heavy enough weight that it's hard for you to, when you get to that 8th and 10th rep. You can warm up with a set, but you want to get a hard 8 and 10 repetitions to really build that muscle. And that's what that high intensity is. You don't have to do a lot. You just have to go heavy enough. But if you don't know how to do that, that's where a trainer comes in. And they're usually well versed in high intensity training. So, that low volume high intensity training, which is just the 51 minutes, they had a 10-minute warm up and they had a 3-minute cool down at 60 to 70% peak heart rate. But when they went to their one bout of 4 minutes, it was at 95% of their peak heart rate. So if you have your pencils or your pens to calculate your maximum heart rate, 220 minus your age. When we're born, our maximum heart rate is 220. So we subtract how old you are, and that gives you your maximum heart rate. So you take that number, and that maximum heart rate is like on the speedometer on your car. Like my Miata, it goes to 160. I'm never going to take it there. I may push it a little bit, but I'm not going to stay there very long because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to get a ticket or the car is going to, we don't know. The same thing like that. So if you take it up that high, it's okay. You don't stay there for very long. So we like to train at 80% of that. 80 to 85% of your maximum. So you multiply your maximum heart rate, 220 minus your age, by 80% or 85%. If you're just starting, 80%. If you've already been training, 85%. And that's that 30 minutes you want to be in. But to really maximize it, you can incorporate this high intensity by when you go out in your walk, go and walk fast between driveways, or 30 seconds walk fast and then recover for a minute. 30 seconds walk fast and recover for a minute. That high intensity training makes your heart have to work harder and get stronger. If you do the same thing all the time, you don't stress it, so it doesn't get stronger. Same thing with the weight training. You've got to do more weight because that's the only way you can build muscle. Otherwise, you're just really wasting your time. Because if you do 30 reps today, you're going to have to do 60 reps tomorrow. By the end of the year, you're going to be doing 10,000 reps. You just don't have time for that. The whole idea with strength training is to increase your weight so you can decrease your time. All right. So protein, that brings me to protein. So remember the first week, the first 10 days, I had you drinking a lot of the protein shake because I wanted to get maximum protein in for you, because you can be plant-based and animal-based. And I like a little bit of both. So now that you can have animal protein, make sure you get that. To discover how much protein you personally need, whatever your ideal body weight is, not your current weight, your ideal body weight. So my ideal body weight is 130. Half of that in grams of protein. So half of 130 is 65. So my intake of protein a day is about 65 grams. Piece of chicken the size of your palm is 25 grams. I have a sheet that I'll put on the Facebook page that gives you a list of all what the protein is and everything. You can get it from beans, but you have to eat a lot of beans and not a lot of protein and a lot of carbohydrates with those beans. Yes, they're complex, but they still are carbohydrates. There are 20 essential amino acids. There are 20 amino acids, 9 are essential. That means we need them, but we don't make them, and we have to get them mostly from animal. You can get the leucine, isoleucine, and valine, which are your branch chain amino acids, from pumpkin seed in the Veggie Pro shake. So that's why I let you have that, because those are the important ones to build muscle, your branch chain amino acids. So I like and research is showing that, it's a little bit of plant and a little bit of animal, is the best for healthy aging. So you want to maintain your protein as we age, and we need a little bit more as we age. So 65 is my minimum. If I'm going to go work out, I will go a little bit higher on that. So I'll add a little bit more protein in that day, maybe add an extra shake in or eat a little bit more protein. And that's how I can so I may go up to 70 or 75 that day. Sometimes I can do it a little bit more. I don't do that every day. And if you're not exercising, you don't need that. You just need that half your body weight, ideal body weight. So figure out what your ideal body weight is, and half of that is your grams of protein. Okay. And here's another one. I just throw this in here because gait speed, how fast you walk tells how long you're going to live. The slower you walk, the quicker you die. So pick up the pace, people. So if you don't want to be old, you see these people walking around barely moving with the cane. Yeah, and I know we have injuries. I understand that, but still, gait speed is important. So building strength so that you can have that speed. Get on an elliptical run so that you can move the body without the pounding. There are ways to do that. So when we look at the whole picture of that, your mixed exercise, which is your strength training and your aerobic, it decreases your inflammation ×2. It decreases insulin resistance ×2. It improves body compositions ×2, and it reduces your rate of decline is reduced drastically. If you just do cardiovascular disease, you decrease inflammation, you decrease insulin resistance, you improve your body, and your reduction of decline is there. But if you add the weight training in with it, oh man, it's double the bang for your buck there. And if you're sedentary, it's the opposite of all those. Increased inflammation, increased insulin resistance, decreased body composition, and accelerated decline. And you can see that by the scale here. We don't want you to be at that disability threshold. So if you don't know how to do it, find a trainer. If you go to any of the workout places, I work out at Anytime Fitness, they always have a trainer there. They have group classes. You can do individualized class. Whatever it is, do something. Look at YouTube. YouTube has that. So we've got to be strong, and that'll help break down that, what I call anti-sarcopenic strategies. So we'll, keep that muscle in there. So what is this conclusion here? Strength training addresses all 10 of those biomarkers of healthy aging. It's time efficient, supports the body with nutritional supplementation for strength support, your muscle, ligament, tendon, bone, and joint for healthy aging. So like you hear me always tell patients, okay, you need to be taking Ligaplex 2, turmeric forte, cod liver oil. Ligaplex 2 has a multi, but it has support for muscle, ligament, tendon, bone, and joint. What we need. Turmeric forte reduces inflammation. It's support for your liver, support for digestion, support for your joints. Cod liver oil, naturally found vitamin A, naturally found vitamin D, the liver from the cod, which has A, D, E, and K, and the omega-3s. So really good bang for your buck. And those are just foundational things that everybody should take. The Ligaplex 2, we use that for athletes for long-term restoration and repair. So it's good for everybody. And then also that exercising, it increases that physiological headroom. So you have a lot of area under that curve. We don't want that sharp dive. We want a big area underneath that. So that's where I'm pushing you to. And did you know that 14 muscles are activated when you open a bottle of wine? This is why fitness is my passion. I know you're laughing. You can. All right. Once again, what to avoid. And so now you understand why margarines, corn oils, vegetable oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, all hydrogenated and trans fats are out forever. Don't let them back in. Caffeine and alcohol, no. Coffee and tobacco and other stimulants, no. You can have your No Fun Joe or whatever Swiss water decaf you like. I'm okay with that. No soft drinks, regular diet. You can do like we do the little fuzzy waters. This is a Waterloo black cherry seltzer water. No sugar in it. No, it's just water with a little flavor. Limiting, no nuts yet because a lot of them are roasted and things like that. So afterwards we'll get you back on. I'll get you on a plan next week. But staying away from dairy, processed foods, refined foods, dried canned vegetables, and any cured meats. Remember those cured meats. And I'm a big charcuterie girl, so I'm very picky, but they're very high in sodium nitrate. So, and that's not only a carcinogen, but they use it to make fireworks. So pick one. Remember, active nutrition, active suicide. All right, so we have one more week. Next week, and also, if you haven't looked at the Facebook page, please look there. Please go to the standard process and sign up for that. I had a patient win it a few years ago, so please give it your best shot. I think they want you to do a little video, but it's worth the trip. It's an amazing place. So do that today. Make me proud because I want to see my people as contestants in there. So that's your homework. Same time next week. So supplements didn't change this week. They're the same as last week. And you can have your protein and be creative. And I will see you next week.